Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Gabriela Elizabeth Mora Méndez, esposa de Carlos Uzcategui Vielma. Fue enviado injustamente a El Salvador.
Gabriela Mora's partner Carlos is one of over 250 Venezuelans sent by the U.S. to El Salvador's most notorious prison.
Este es él.
The U.S. government says these men are gang members and terrorists. So the Wall Street Journal investigated Carlos's case, reviewing his work and family history, his journey and legal entry into the U.S., and found no criminal history or ties to any gang. What we did find is that the timing of his journey put him on a collision course with an unprecedented deportation scheme that was months in the making. Carlos's journey begins in a small village in Venezuela. When Carlos lost his job in the coal mines, he decided to try his luck in the U.S.
Para mí, mi tiempo se paralizó el 18 de marzo del 2024 que mi esposo salió de la casa.
We verified Carlos's journey through photos, voice notes, and text messages. From Venezuela, he traveled through Colombia, by boat to Panama, across the Darien jungle, and through Central America.
Ya nosotros vamos saliendo, por favor de Dios, por el terminal, agarrar el otro bus. Te amo, te extraño.
In Mexico City, he joined the months-long wait for an official appointment to cross into the U.S.
Hubo muchas propuestas de entrar ilegal y nunca lo quisimos aceptar porque el canal legal existía.
He got a job at a restaurant, and while he waited, concerns were growing in the U.S. over a criminal gang from Venezuela that most Americans were hearing about for the first time.
Border officials are warning over a Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, known for murder, drug trafficking, and sex crimes.
These people were criminals in Venezuela. They're criminals here now. This idea that they're being vetted at the border is a joke.
TDA, they have a target on their back and we're going after them.
The gang's reach in the U.S. was small, according to FBI and Texas Department of Public Safety data. But by October, Donald Trump had made Tren de Aragua a central campaign issue.
The Tren de Aragua. Have you heard of it?
I think it's the biggest problem. I think it's bigger than the economy. I think it's bigger than inflation.
And he was already laying the groundwork for how he was going to target the gang.
To expedite removal of the Tren de Aragua and other savage gangs, I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of, listen to this, 1798. That's an old one. We want to just get them the hell out of our country, right?
Cuando ganó el presidente Donald Trump, nosotros hablamos de que si en diciembre la cita no llegaba, pues se iba a regresar para acá con nosotras.
Cielo, no salió la cita, de verdad. Qué bendición.
Fue como que bueno, si Dios quiso que la cita saliera, vamos a continuar con el plan.
After nearly 9 months waiting in Mexico, Carlos prepared to cross.
Amor, ya vinieron a buscarnos. Ya tengo que guardar el teléfono.
El día de la entrevista y me dice, te aviso cuando cruce y esté del otro lado. Ese mensaje nunca llegó. De ahí la próxima comunicación que tuve con él fue el 12 de diciembre. Él me da la noticia de que había sido detenido por sus tatuajes.
For law enforcement, identifying suspected Tren de Aragua members has often come down to tattoos. Government intelligence reports reviewed by the Wall Street Journal give examples of what agents look for: Air Jordan logos, crowns, clocks, and stars, to name a few. These guides say these tattoos are common and not reliable as sole indicators, and many of the images are not even verified gang tattoos. An example of a clock tattoo was designed by an artist in the UK. This crown was done for a man in India. It's his and his wife's initials. And 3 of the train tattoos appeared in a 2015 article called 70 Train Tattoos for Men. Carlos does have 3 of the tattoos on the lists. One of them he got in 2011, 3 years before experts say Tren de Aragua even began. and Gabriela says none of the tattoos have anything to do with the gang.
En el 2010, 2011 se hizo muy común hacerse la corona con la palabra en inglés. Como era lo que estaba así más de moda, pues ellos escogieron la corona.
After nearly 3 months detained, Carlos was ordered deported. The Journal obtained his court records, which include no allegation of gang activity. Carlos didn't appeal the decision. By this point, just getting home felt like his best option. On March 15th, he called Gabriela. He'd been told he'd be deported to Venezuela that day.
El sábado cuando él me indica que venía a Venezuela, fue una alegría muy grande, porque dijimos, bueno, podemos celebrarle el cumpleaños el próximo domingo a nuestra hija. Y ni siquiera la pudo llamar para felicitarla.
That same day, President Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act against Tren de Aragua, declaring the gang is invading U.S. territory and calling for the immediate deportation of its members. Hours later, Carlos was on a plane, not to Venezuela, but to El Salvador, where he's now in prison with no indication that he will ever be released.
It's completely unprecedented.
John Toban helped lead Homeland Security Investigation's strategy against Tren de Aragua until he retired in January.
One of the things that I did was to say, okay, TDA is in the media every day. What are our cases looking like? There was a little bit of disconnect in terms of the perceived threat versus the actual threat.
Toban reviewed materials the Journal obtained in Carlos's case, including proof of no criminal record in Venezuela.
If I'm trying to build a criminal case against this individual, I have limited evidence. So if I went to a prosecutor and say, hey, I want to indict this person because they have this tattoo, they would be like, okay, what else do you have? It was all really based on criminal activity. The policy has changed significantly now.
We don't know why exactly the Department of Homeland Security says Carlos is a terrorist gang member, because they have not shared any evidence to support that claim. A spokesperson told the Journal it would be insane to do so, and stood by its determination.
With this new policy, the question is, okay, so what due process is afforded? Any decision that takes away somebody's freedom that is not made with the utmost care and where everything is doubled and triple checked is a tragedy.
Gabriela has had no contact with Carlos since he was sent to El Salvador.
¿Por qué hacer esta tortura y este proceso tan doloroso y tan de verdad discriminatorio? Por ser venezolano, por tener un tatuaje. O sea, ¿por qué pagamos justos por pecadores?
Su presencia aquí es muy importante para que me ayuden a demostrar que mi esposo es inocente.
Un tatuaje no hace a nadie criminal. Ser venezolano no nos hace ser malos. Somos personas, somos seres humanos.
De verdad, pido justicia para él y para los demás muchachos inocentes.
Lawyers in Venezuela and the US are challenging these deportations to El Salvador, but the government has doubled down.
That we're confident that people that are there should be there and they should stay there for the rest of their lives.
The administration says they will continue to work with El Salvador to send more alleged criminals to the prison, even US citizens.
He said, homegrowns are next. The homegrowns.
I don't know that we have to make a choice in terms of sacrificing due process and rule of law. Because in the end, if due process goes, nobody is safe.